We'll call this committee the whole meeting to order on August 13th, 2024 at 6 p.m. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Is there anybody who'd like to speak under public participation this evening? Okay, for the record, there is no public participation this evening. We will start with a couple oath of offices here. We'll start with Brian Romanato Jr., probationary firefighter. Brian, if you just step forward, he'll bring you the microphones.
Please raise your right hand. Say aye.
Aye.
Your name.
Brian Romanato Jr.
And repeat after me. Having been appointed
Having been appointed
to the office of probationary firefighter
to the office of probationary firefighter
in the city of Lincoln
in the city of Lincoln
and the county of Logan,
in the county of Logan,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I'll support the Constitution
that I'll support the Constitution
of the United States
of the United States
and the Constitution
and the Constitution
of the state of Illinois,
of the state of Illinois,
and I'll faithfully discharge the duties
and I'll faithfully discharge the duties
of the office of probationary firefighter
of the office of probationary firefighter
to the best of my ability.
to the best of my ability.
Congratulations, sir.
Thank you.
She'll need you to sign that, but congratulations. Okay, next will be the oath of office for Marshall Call, probationary firefighter. Marshall.
Please raise your right hand. Say aye.
I,
Your name
Marshall Call,
and repeat after me. I've been appointed
I've been appointed
to the office of probationary firefighter
to the office of probationary firefighter
in the city of Lincoln
in the city of Lincoln
and the county of Logan.
and the county of Logan.
Do solemnly swear
Do solemnly swear
that I'll support the Constitution
that I'll support the Constitution
of the United States
of the United States
and the Constitution
and the Constitution
of the state of Illinois,
of the state of Illinois,
and I'll faithfully discharge the duties
and I'll faithfully discharge the duties
of the office of probationary firefighter
of the office of probationary firefighter
to the best of my ability.
to the best of my ability.
Congratulations, sir.
Thank you.
Good catch. Okay, next item on the agenda is Alice Rote with the Tourism Quarterly Report. Alice?
Hello, everyone. This is the quarterly report for our second quarter. Hotel motel tax income. I'm so sorry. I think that number is incorrect. I'll get you guys that correct number because that is not the number. But revenue was down 10% compared to 2023 quarter two revenue. Grants received, we have our $39,000, $779,000 grant through DCEO, as well as a second round that was given this year in an amount totaling $7,684. Digital marketing efforts have continued with Nexstar Digital Marketing. The depot and the mill are in our Route 66 passports, as we have been for the last couple of years. We've had 431 people with tourism-related inquiries at the depot, and 114 of those people had Route 66 passports. We had 483 visitors at the mill from April through June, and 187 of these visitors had a Route 66 passport. A reminder that the Mill Museum is open Tuesday through Saturday, noon to 4, through the end of October. We're very pleased with these numbers. Especially May of this year was way above what we've seen in previous years, so we believe we're starting to see a huge increase in travelers as we lead up to the Route 66 Centennial. The Route 60, and in correlation with that, the Route 66 Centennial Commission has started meeting again. We have a few projects we're discussing for the 2026 Centennial, and we're currently exploring opportunities for funding for those projects, including the Route 66 grant that the state of Illinois just opened up about a week ago. Financials are attached, accounts balance as of June 30th, 2024. Questions?
Alice, can you tell us who is currently on the Route 66 Commission?
Yes. So currently it's myself, Sam Downs, Steve Parrott. We have Jeff Ladd with the Scenic Byway out of Springfield. They cover Route 66 for the whole state of Illinois. Neil Patel, Bussy Rote, Haji Patel, Joe Ryan, I believe. Oh, and Rob Harmon with the Rail Splitter Antique Auto Club.
Okay.
That's
Thank you.
everyone. Yep.
It's been a while since we talked about that, so.
Oh,
I was
yeah,
curious.
no problem.
Thank you. Council, Ms. Rawls, you have a question?
Mm-hmm.
Sorry. Can you hear me anyway?
Mhm.
Okay. What would you contribute to the fact that these people, we have that many people that come in a quarter to see either the mill or to go to the Tourism Bureau? Is there a particular thing that they usually say draws them to here, or?
I'd say at least 80% of our visitors, if not more, are traveling Route 66, and those passports have been a big help in getting more people just in our doors in general. We do also get people that are coming into town for different events. They're staying for the weekend. Some examples would be like Balloons Over 66, the 420 festival that happened this past April, especially if there's vendors that are staying in town for the weekend. But I'd say mostly Route 66 is probably our biggest draw that we have here in Logan County.
So do you have brochures in that in the hotels, local hotels and that?
Yes, we do keep quite a few brochures in the hotel, mostly our Logan County guide, our updated Logan County dining guide, as well as our newest Route 66 passport.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions for Ms. Rote? Okay, thank you for coming in and providing the report.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Okay, next item up on the agenda is item number 6, Construction Engineering Administration. Mr. Bounds.
So this is for a contract for CMT to do the construction administration and engineering services through the influent pumping station that was just approved. It's a cost of not to exceed $100,000. This is a budgeted item. The line item it'll come from is in the packet. If there are any specific questions, I'd love to try to answer them.
Questions for Mr. Bounds? Place this on the regular agenda? Okay, we'll place item number 6 on the regular agenda. Thank you, Andrew. Okay, next item up is item number 7, hiring of code enforcement officer. Chief Meister.
Thank you. As I prepared for you guys, my recommendation to Mayor Welch is the hiring of Rod Harrison. Rod is a colleague of mine, very experienced police officer who is retired from the Menard County Sheriff's Department, where he ultimately served as the sheriff for the last 4 years of his career. Most importantly about him is he's not just a good police officer, he's a good person. And I think that he would do an excellent job of this. To note, though, he's not able to dedicate 3 days a week to the code enforcement position. He still works as a part-time school resource officer over in Menard County Schools, and that's a previous responsibility that he's dedicated himself to. So that is my recommendation, and I'd be willing to answer any questions about it.
Alderman Downs.
How often can he work for us?
At least 1 day a week, and he said 2 days when possible, or if there are a lot of issues that are coming in that need to be dealt with.
Thank you.
Alderman Eimer.
We have 2 full-time code enforcement people now, correct? What is it that he's going to do that the other 2 can't do, I guess, is what?
Well,
I'll Chief Meister take that.
the police department and the code enforcement office share responsibilities. Typically, if it's a property issue, such as like long grass or trash, Mr. Woodhull's office handles that by sending him a letter. If it's a complaint about a vehicle parked on the street that is against city code, or an issue such as trailers, typically the police department responds to that. As I noted in my previous memos to the council, I want my sworn police officers to focus on crime detection, deterrence, and criminal interdiction efforts, not so much trailers on the street. This person would be dedicated to those tasks. He would be basically on patrol as a code enforcement officer instead of a police officer, and dedicate his time to those specific complaints and finding them himself instead of you folks calling them in.
So is he going to write tickets then? Is that what he's got that ability over our 2 full-time staff now? Is that
Yeah.
the difference?
Yes, he'll be authorized to issue citations, prepare reports for the city attorney, things like that, to start the prosecution process immediately, instead of Mr. Woodhull's office sending a letter and then following up, and then Mr. Hoblett's office filing something with the courts. It's basically an arrest, only it's an arrest by citation.
Does our 2 full-time people not have the authority to write tickets? Is that what the?
That's not under my purview, sir.
They do not write tickets at this time. And to be clear, the intent of this, going way back to the beginning when we first started, it's not necessarily to go out and write tickets and nail people on violations. We hope that this individual can actually have face-to-face conversations and dialogue, because the ultimate goal is compliance, not congesting the court system with ordinance violations. And so that's one of the things that we hope that we can help improve.
I guess we're adding somebody to the payroll. My question still remains: I guess he can. Will he be writing tickets if, I mean, if he's not going to be writing tickets, why don't we just?
He will.
Oh, he will then.
He will have, Chief can keep me honest, he will be authorized to do everything except for arrest individuals. So he can write tickets, he can have conversations, he'll still have a badge. He to the general public is serving as a law enforcement officer to some degree. He just doesn't have arrest authority. Chief, am I accurate in that?
A code enforcement officer, yes. So I was questioned by an alderman regarding whether or not this person would ever be called to active duty law enforcement. The answer to that is no. This person is dedicated to enforcement of the city code and nothing more than that. However, for instance, if we have a major traffic crash or something like that, where we need more personnel to help direct traffic, that would be a reasonable request if that officer was on duty to help us out.
Did we discuss the wages for this at one time, or?
We have. It's already been approved.
Okay.
Are you- any?
Huh?
Go ahead. I
Oh,
want to
just
make
trying to
sure
see
I
what
answer.
I can't remember what it was. I'm sorry. Does anybody know what it?
We budgeted $31,500, and that was
31,000
obviously
a year, you say?
up to.
Oh, up to. Okay.
And
What was the hourly rate again? Oh, okay. All right. Thank you, Chief.
Yeah, it's been a while because we did have another individual identified, and we're not going to go into the reasons why that didn't happen. So the chief has been working within his field to identify another individual, and this one that he's brought forward, which I agree is a good choice, could do the job, and he could do it part-time. So I don't see any concerns with it. Alderman Bateman and then Alderwoman McClellan.
So, one of the things I get complaints about quite often is illegally parked trailers. You've addressed that. And then as Mrs. Rolfs and I can attest, we get a lot of parking violations downtown. Well, I know it's only one day a week, but he can address those also, since it does fall under the purview of the police officer has to deal with parking, not the code enforcement officer.
correct. So as it's written in the ordinance, this person has authority to enforce all the codes of the city.
Alderwoman
Signs,
McClellan.
anything.
So we're not doing away with anybody's position. We'll still have the two people who are already doing that. And so we're just going to add an 8-hour shift, at least one 8-hour shift, and maybe more.
Correct.
Do you know if that's going to be a stable schedule where you'll know he's going to be there on Monday every day, or do you have any idea if that's gonna
No, it would be a weekly thing. It depends obviously on the school year and what days he's required to work there. We haven't hammered out a schedule yet because I haven't even brought it to you until now. So,
Okay, thank you.
yeah, the point of the position is to increase our ability to enforce the ordinances, not to replace anyone, not to and not to cast any bad light on any other offices. It's just a position to help support the police department and allow us to do what our primary function is instead of parking enforcement.
Mr. Hoblet.
And just keep in mind too that the officers of the police department will still have the authority to write, various ordinance violations that they do come within their purview when this officer is not on duty, and at night, things like the loud noises and things of that nature that they would normally respond to.
Alderwoman Rolfs.
The city attorney just kind of answered my question, but the salary, was that based on 2 days a week or
3.
3 days a week? So that will be.
3 days a week, 8 hours a day, 24 hours a week.
And right now, we are anticipating that it most likely be 1, possibly 2 days a week.
Correct. And we haven't used any of that budgeted money for the salary since, it was approved in May. So we'll come in under budget for that salary line, without a doubt.
So my question was going to be, if we find that we have a higher need for violations than that, the other policemen can step in and help with that.
Just as always, we will still respond to calls for service. Whether the code enforcement officer is on duty or not, if he is not, it will be our responsibility to take care of that request.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Chief Meister? Okay, place this on the regular agenda. Okay. Place item number 7 on the regular agenda. Okay, next up is item number 8, an ordinance authorizing the purchase of real estate. Mr. Hoblet.
So before the council is a ordinance for the purchase of real estate by state law. In order to purchase ground for the purpose of municipal purposes, it has to be done by ordinance. The general area of where this property is located is within the ordinance. It's asking for the council's approval to do as such. As for the stated purpose within there, which is to place a generator and fencing on that respective piece of land that would aid piece of, I believe, and Andrew can correct me, it's for the lift station, as I understand it. So we're asking for the council's approval for that and for it to be put on the regular agenda.
Regular agenda? Okay. We'll place item number 8 on the regular agenda. Next is item number 9, curb and sidewalk improvement initial targets. Mr. Landers.
Yes, I provided a memo that kind of explains what targets we have, and then kind of some budget information regarding that also. Is there any questions?
Has everybody had a chance to look at the targets?
I provided, the pictures that were in the packet were black and white, so it didn't come out very good. So I provided everybody copies of the maps with the targets lined out.
Is there anything in these photos that you think needs clarification or explanation?
I think it's pretty self-explanatory.
Okay, Mr. Bateman.
Is the sidewalk in front of Heartland Bank and Trust, did they request that, or is it, I mean, I don't
No,
often, but
we've actually had that on the list for a couple of years now. Then haven't been able to get it completed. It was on last year's list for the program. A few years ago, we did have a pedestrian injury there where someone tripped and fell. We went and tried to correct it the best we could by grinding down trip edges and things like that. But that's mainly the purpose it's on there.
Mr. Bateman.
so what is the plan for repair in front of the drive-through? I mean, are they going to be okay with that being closed
Well,
days, or is it
that's
something
something
where
that-
we're going to have to work on weekends while they're closed?
that's something that we'll have to coordinate with them. This is just the approval of the targets, so that steps will come later. Okay. I thought we were doing the whole length, but
Is it going to be phased? To be
again,
determined.
this is just the approval of the targets, and we'll have to tackle those issues when that time comes.
Shane, if you're going to talk, can you sit next to Walt and use that microphone?
You're in trouble now.
Otherwise, Miss Bateman will be very angry with you later.
I'm not Andrew, so I'll flip his name tag down. But as far as we can check on that, as far as the bid package is ready to go, pending, y'all approving the targets. If the entrance is in fact in there, and I'm sorry I don't have that information right in front of me, but if it is, we can work with the bank to close, close half of the entrance, complete that, and then do the other half.
It's
or something like
the
that. We can
drive-through
stage that.
lanes.
That's a very wide entrance through there, so I would think that we'd be able to work with the bank on that.
The problem I see is you're going to be blocking off any drive-through for at least 24 hours for the lane that's against the building where you talk to a person, and you'll be blocking the drive-through for 24 hours to the ATM machine that's on the far, if anybody's bank there. That's where it's coordinated, is one's against the building, and then the ATM's on the far outside. There's a lane in the middle. So that was my concern is the bank just spent all this time remodeling that building, and as long as we work with them and they're okay with it, and we're not angering a downtown business.
Alderman Bateman, that's nothing unusual. I mean, that's not an unusual circumstance for us. We always coordinate with any businesses where we're doing things at and do our best to accommodate them. And, also they do have another branch that you can go to if needed. So, I mean, we'll definitely try to accommodate them the best we can.
Mr. Eimer.
I got a question on the second page. That's the old hospital lot, right?
It's the 8th Street property.
Yeah. Are we now putting a sidewalk all the way around that?
Walking path.
So it'd be concrete sidewalk?
It's a concrete sidewalk, but the intention is for it to be a walking path as well.
Okay, so that's the purpose of doing it.
Yeah. It's a slow progression in building up that property over time. Mm-hmm. Any other questions for Mr. Landers?
Again, if you look at the budget information, the preliminary engineering estimates come in at $331,381.50. We actually have budgeted $300,000. We have an appropriation amount of $350 depending on how the bids come back. If the bids come back favorably, we can probably do the whole project, but if they come back high, then we may have to reduce the scope to stay within budget.
So, just so we kind of know going into it, if the bids come back higher than expected, which portion do you recommend to remove out of scope here?
I would choose something that would be easier for our staff to do, and that would probably be the 10th Street target.
Okay. Any other questions for Mr. Landers? Okay. Place this item on the regular agenda.
I make one more statement. We would also, if everybody is in agreement or doesn't have any issues with these targets, we would like to move forward with them and get them to IDOT so we can get them on the letting for next week. If there's any issues, if there's not any issues with the targets that we've chosen here, if we can get them and go ahead and submit them to IDOT so they can get them on the letting schedule for next week ahead of time.
I'm okay with that because we need to get on that letting schedule. If not, we're gonna cost ourselves a lot of money with the state and time down.
Anything else, Mr. Landers, before I move on?
No, sir.
Okay. All right, so we'll place item number 9 on the regular agenda. Okay, next up is item number 10, an ordinance authorizing and providing for the issuance of not to exceed $6 million aggregate principal amount general obligation bonds, alternate revenue source, Series 2024 of the City of Lincoln, Logan County, Illinois, and for the levy of a direct annual tax sufficient to pay the principal of and interest on said bonds. Anything to add about this ordinance, Mr. Hoblet, before we put it on the agenda, or Mr. Conzo?
I didn't make this ordinance.
Mr. Conzo, then.
I didn't make this ordinance either, but the bond council did. If you recall the ordinance that you passed several weeks ago, which was just authorize the intent to issue bonds for in this case will be the Street Road project. This ordinance carries it a step further, authorizes the city to issue those bonds. And I think we talked about this last with the previous ordinance, but this would not necessarily mean we would have to issue them in the full $6 million amount, but that would be a ceiling. It's also important to note that these would likely be issued in phases. So you might issue $2 million, and then, in the spring, I think, in talking with Superintendent Landers, I think he's planning to start on this in the spring. So you would issue those ahead of that for whatever amount you needed. I'm just using $2 million as a rough amount, and then estimated amount, and then would proceed on through the project, issuing up to as much as $6 million if that becomes necessary.
Questions for Mr. Conzo? Okay, place this on the regular agenda. Okay, we'll place item number 10 on the regular agenda. Next item is item number 11, proposal for certificates of deposit. Mr. Conzo.
Thank you, Mayor. You've all read the memo, I trust, that was in the agenda packet. The reason that I'm recommending doing this now is the interest rates are very favorable. We went for years and years without favorable interest rates. Prior to that time, the city did invest money. If you look at real old reports from, they were before I was here, they were the ones that my predecessor, Mr. Plotner, did. You'll see that the city did have money invested in certificates of deposit previously when the interest rates were favorable. Over a period of time, a couple of things happened. It became necessary for the city to use that money, and the other thing, the interest rates dropped so that there wasn't any point in putting them in certificates of deposit. They are favorable now. I don't anticipate that's going to continue to be the case forever. We've seen some indications with the stock market this week that have not been favorable. Inflation continues to be a problem. When those things happen, that can have an adverse effect on these interest rates. But what we have, and the amount here, this is kind of a minimal amount of what I recommend based on the fund balance. This amount will continue to be figured into the balance of our general fund. We have another $500,000 in investments through IMET. If you read the monthly report that you receive, that's listed in there too. And for audit purposes, that's all part of the general fund. Thing with the difference between this and that, certificates of deposit have a term on them, 6-month term, 9-month term, 12-month term. See, there in that memo, whereas the others do not have that specific term to them. But in any case, those investments and these both be liquid investment. I can't imagine we would need the amount of money that's in here, which is a relatively small part of our fund balance, that we would need that within that 6-month period or within that 9-month period. So, and even if you did, the only penalty would be an interest, a substantial interest penalty, which we would try to avoid.
Questions for Treasurer Conzo? Place this on the regular agenda. Okay, we'll place item number 11 on the regular agenda. That brings us down to announcements. I don't have any announcements this evening. Chief Meister, did you want to touch base on this?
Yeah, I have a few announcements this evening. We'll start with that one since you brought it up. Each of you has a sticker on your desk in front of you. The police department had these made. It was actually an idea that was brought forth by Mayor Welch. Another community north of us had like a Facebook post or some kind of social media thing out with a similar thing, and I thought it was a great idea. Talked to Mayor Welch about it, and we had those made. So in subsection C of our solicitor license city code, it says in there, if you remain on the premises of a private resident after they've clearly told you they don't want to buy what you're selling, you're in violation of your license. So that's pretty much what that reads is, we don't want you here. If you are here, you're subject to a fine. So those are going to be made available to the public. They'll be here at City Hall, and I'll let City Clerk Bateman talk about the process that you want to happen for pickup.
They will be available at City Hall. We're open from 8:30 to 4:30 Monday through Friday, except for holidays. Mr. Welch agreed that they would be $1. That'd be $1 cash. Just come in and ask for one, give us your money, and we'll give you the sticker.
And when they run out, give me a call. So
Yep. When they run out, we'll call for reorder.
Get more made.
There's, I'll tell you the truth. There's one already on a door somewhere in Lincoln.
Yours?
Oh yeah. If I may continue, different subject.
Before we move on, were there any questions about?
I was just going to ask, is there a particular location that these should go on, just on the door, window?
So I have a little glass inset in the middle of my window. It actually fit perfectly there, and it's just below eye level, so you couldn't miss it for the world. And that's why we chose the color that we did. It'd be kind of hard to say I didn't see that. Sorry. So that would be my suggestion, but they can go anywhere on the door. But I would recommend, on the exterior door, if you have a storm door or something like that, I'd put it on the exterior most door that you have.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Any other questions on this? Okay.
Next, I wanted to report to the council, the city of Lincoln is seeing a spike in burglaries right now. We've had a lot of them in the last month or two. Last 2 weeks have been pretty rough. So what we were able to do is identify a few people involved. We have made arrests in those, and we executed a search warrant late last week on a residence in Lincoln and collected a very large amount of stolen tools. Not all of these tools have been reported stolen. It's difficult to identify who they belong to, so our detectives are sifting through that with the help of officers when they have time to try to identify the owners. For the citizens out there, we ask that you keep your sheds locked, you keep your garages locked, you keep your houses locked, your cars locked, and your construction trailers locked, because that's what's being burglarized. And please report it to the police department. Even if you think, oh, they're never going to catch this guy. If you don't report it, it's knowledge that we don't have that may really help us out in the long run. So please don't hesitate to call. We will take the time to come out and take your report and do the best we can. So that's what I had to report on that. And then go ahead.
Mr. Bateman, I think, has a comment or question for you.
And that goes for even if they don't get in. Social media doesn't count, people. I know I've mentioned that a million times. Posting on social media is not notifying the authorities. You can if you want, but your phone call needs to be to the police department, even if they don't get in. If you got them on camera, or if you see evidence that someone tried to get in, please contact the police department. Save your social media for social media type things.
Yeah, I agree completely. And one last note on that, what we discussed earlier, inventory your property, especially your valuable property. I take pictures of the serial numbers of my expensive tools, and I put them in an album on my phone. That way, I've got them all the time. They're immediately accessible. And if we don't have the serial number, it's really hard to say that that tool belonged to you for sure, you know. So please do that as well. The last subject that I wanted to discuss is school starts tomorrow. Just ask everybody in town during the morning time, especially, to be careful in their travels. The pedestrians always have the right of way and the crosswalk, so please just be diligent. Take your time getting to work. Watch out for the kids getting to school.
Chief, can you share any details about the graffiti and that incident? And because we have identified an individual, right?
Sure. Yeah, I conducted the investigation myself. Our downtown camera program paid off, and we were able to identify the suspect placing graffiti on a building on video. I sent that video out to the department. The night shift officers were able to find that suspect and properly identify him. So I prepared a report for the city attorney, and I've submitted that for prosecution for at least 2 counts of graffiti, which is in our city code as well. And that's where we're at with that.
Thank you. Okay. Anybody else have an announcement? Mr. Bateman and then Mr. Landers.
Popular subject with me, it's race week. Big race coming up Friday. Sprint cars, late models modifieds, so the fastest of the fast. If you haven't been out to the Lincoln Speedway, please take time to go out there. You'll be amazed at the crowd of people and how much revenue it does bring into town, especially the surrounding businesses.
Mr. Landers.
Yes, you may have seen a press release today. Friday morning, we're going to have Shea parking lot, which is the parking lot behind the arcade. We're going to have it shut down probably for a few hours just to try to get it cleaned up a little bit. We've been trying to do it for a while now, but there's just a lot of cars parked in there, and we can't really get to the weeds and get them cleaned up. So we're going to have it shut down at midnight Thursday night, and then we'll be in there first thing in the morning, and probably take us a couple hours to get it cleaned up and swept up, and trying to make it look nice for the upcoming weekends that we got coming on with the big events. But we're trying not to inconvenience anybody too much, so we will get her done as quick as we can and get it open back up.
Okay. Mr. Gonzo.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to note one thing. Today is International Left-Handed People's Day. So if you know somebody that applies to.
I know one.
Yeah. I know a couple.
Actually. Buy him a donut or something before the end of the day.
And on that note, anybody else have an announcement? Okay. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Alderman Parrott made the motion. Alderwoman McClellan second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed. Meeting is adjourned at 6:40 p.m.